There is no correlation between where you study, how premier the institute is, how high your grades are, or how much you have been active in extracurriculars during your childhood, your student years, to how well you do in life. This is something I heard recently, and I want to emphasize this because we as parents are so consumed with the idea that our children will have to reflect those grades, will have to be in those institutes, will have to be doing those leadership roles while they are students in order to be someone later in life. Now, why I'm saying this is because there is a massive interest, I would say a desire of parents to have their children join professional courses like engineering and medical right after their 12th board exams in order to secure their future, quote unquote, in order to once and for all get set in life. You know, once they get into that professional career, they come out of campus with a placement, and that is it. So I have seen parents who gear up their children right from 8th standard, and an 8th standard kid would be like a 12, 13-year-old, just when they are entering their teenage years. Parents who believe that their children will have to build careers in order to survive start pushing children into professional courses from this age. And I know of at least one example, at least, of a child who actually topped the JEE entrance exam and went to the same school as my daughter. And I was very proud, of course, to see that a classmate of my daughter has topped such a prestigious, such a highly competitive engineering entrance exam. And when I was reading that interview, it was said by one of the parents that we put our lives on hold. We directed everything towards what he wants to do, what time he has to eat, what time he has to sleep, how we are going to organize ourselves to facilitate his undisturbed study time. That is what 4 years of their lives is all they did, right from 8th standard, right up to the time the student, the boy in question, was appearing for his JEE entrance exam. Now, here it's a win-win situation. The boy in question wants to be an engineer. It's his passion. He loves the subject. The parents are supportive. He showed the right skills or sort of, the interest in those subjects early enough for him to develop that sort of expertise, those sort of grades in those subjects. And it flew, it just, everything just flowed naturally for this boy, and he topped the exam. Now put another kid in that situation who does not have those skills or those interests or that aptitude for those subjects, but the parents still feel that here is your opportunity to gear up right from the 8th standard to aim for a professional course, to get into a premier institute. And let's suppose the boy or girl in question gets in and then realizes that this is not what I want to do. A child feels stuck in that situation. And to my mind, that's the worst thing that can happen to a young teenager, when you feel stuck, when you feel you have no way out. And this situation is getting so acute that there are suicides happening in the campuses of our premier institutes. There are 2 cases that was reported yesterday, that's on Friday, and in these 2 cases, one of them in fact happened in an IIT in Guwahati, where a first-year BTech student allegedly committed suicide. We don't know the exact circumstances. The university, the institute has only released a statement saying death by suicide, possible death by suicide, and the matter is under investigation. My problem here is twofold. Firstly, we are so averse to understanding that every child may not be equally resilient to adapting to a new situation. You know, when we send off our kids to a campus, to another environment, we never consider how difficult uprooting somebody from their so-called natural habitat to another environment, how difficult it could be. Parents feel proud that so and so has got into this campus and from here on it'll be a success story. It is not always the case. My problem is that we as parents need to understand what is the mental quotient, what is the emotional quotient, what is the resilience level that our children have to cope in a certain environment. And we must understand where we are sending our children to and to what extent they have the capability to adjust in a situation like that. When we don't do that and we simply go by the fact they've qualified for this institute, qualified only in terms of their grades, are they mentally qualified, emotionally secure, are they anchored enough to feel able enough to go through that process? That is something we as parents need to check, and I think we have failed miserably in that. We've created an ecosystem where children are made to aspire to get into certain institutes, and once they get in, it's the ultimate thing that they have achieved, and parents are sitting back hoping that they will get a six-figure starting salary. And the child in question who goes into that environment realizes that if I exit, I will be subjected to shame, ridicule, probably the wrath of my parents. So this is a topic that I brought up with a very well-known psychiatrist in Mumbai, Dr. Kesri Chawda, Dr. Kersi Chawda, I beg your pardon. So he spoke at length about how he's dealt with students, with children who go through mental depression, who are unable to cope in situations where they are pushed out of their comfort zone to alien environment where they are supposed to go and study and pursue their courses, their professional courses in most cases. And then what happens? What sort of mental breakdown happens? What sort of reasons or causes pushes them to take the extreme steps sometimes? So I said I have a twofold problem. The first, as I mentioned, was the resilience part of it, which is never understood or examined or studied by the parents. The second is that we have failed to understand as a society, perhaps because of the stigma associated, that suicidal tendencies can be a predisposed genetic condition. It can be in the gene. So yes, it can be something that runs in the family. So there are some people more prone to committing suicide than the others, and people are loath to talk about it. So if that sort of vulnerability is already there and such a child is pushed into an environment, a trigger will obviously be more effective on a child like that as compared to a child who does not have the same gene. So everything is not external. It's not always external. In fact, Dr. Chawda explains it very well, that there's a tendency to blame parents a lot. We must refrain from that. It's not always. There are a lot of parents who are extremely supportive, friendly with their children, and yet they go through this mental distress because of their own internal wiring, as it were. And I urge you to watch that video. It's on the YouTube channel of Free Press Journal. The link is there in the description. Please hear people who have devoted enough time in studying these issues, because awareness is everything, information is everything. We can't just feign ignorance and say we didn't know, because we are losing young lives, we are losing young children. The idea is to give every child an exit plan if they wish to exit a situation. When it comes to being in a professional course, they can change their minds. They're allowed to change their minds. In fact, I remember listening to the interview of a very famous YouTuber who said that he did his engineering, and then when he did his internship, he realized that that is not meant for him. He quit and became a YouTuber. Now, in India, this will be resented by parents, that we spend so much money on you and this is what you do. It is not very likely that parents will be welcoming of a step like that, because money is wasted. What about a life that is wasted? Would you rather that your child goes and kills themselves? So let's open our eyes to this issue, and let's listen to the experts, analysts, observers in this area and take their advice on it. I urge you to hear this particular interview, this program that I did for Free Press Journal. Thanks for watching.